Sometimes in boating, we just drop the ball and things go wrong, just like some of the things we'll witness in this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Now, dropping the ball in boating can be pretty easy. There's a lot going on, so it's easy to forget things sometimes. Now, whose fault do you think this one is? Is it the crew or the captain? Let me know in the comments. Now, many times, as a captain, we're almost always going to be the one to blame. If something goes wrong, it's typically on us, because we need to make sure everything's ready to go before we do anything. For example, making sure the bow eye is still attached to the trailer before we start backing down, no matter who's backing down. Of course, making sure that everybody's ready to go when we're leaving the dock, instead of just pulling off and hitting the throttle. Again, if somebody falls overboard because they're not hanging on, in theory, it's still pretty much the captain's fault almost every single time. Now, there are some situations this doesn't apply. When the captain's not on board the vessel and somebody else is in charge of things, well, at that point in time, that's really not on the captain, that's on whoever else was handling the vessel at the time. Now, as we already mentioned, dropping the ball in boating can happen at any point in time. Sometimes it'll be unexpected. We'll just be on our way down to the boat ramp and things, well, they just won't quite go our way. Other times, we probably should have seen it coming. The boys get up early and we rush to get down to the fishing grounds, and all of a sudden we forgot something, like the trailer. Now, it's pretty obvious this crew's not the smartest bulb in the bunch, but one thing I don't think they thought through is the police are going to have a pretty easy time tracking them down later just following the trail of fiberglass in the road. Now, other times the captain will be at fault. If you've got your vessel misloaded when you're heading out the inlet and you all of a sudden wind up in a situation like this, Cap, you're going to be the one to blame almost every single time. Now, even in a situation like this, I mean, the captain's on the boat. He's obviously not controlling the truck, but still, it's on captain to make sure everything was good to go before they started backing down. I mean, in the reality in the end, Cap's probably even to blame for this truck going in the water. Sure, he wasn't behind the wheel of that, but the reality is, he is responsible for that boat that was on the boat ramp where they were trying to use the truck to push it back down. So the reality is, his error caused this whole situation. Now, at least the person in the truck was smart enough to get out that window before things got too bad. That's the one I hate seeing the most in these situations, where people sit there behind the wheel of the truck and don't get out. And speaking of getting out, always do this. When you're backing up at a boat ramp, kind of like our crew here, go ahead and roll the window down. You never know when things are going to go wrong, and at least if you got the window down, you can go ahead and be ready. And this crew needs to be ready, because I'm pretty sure this truck is not rated to tow this size boat. I mean, as we can see here, brakes completely locked up. This boat's going back anyway. Fortunately, this crew winds up pulling it off. Now, sometimes when we drop the ball, obviously, Cap, it's gonna be pretty easy to identify he is the problem. Like in this situation right here. Because rule number one is you never really want to leave the vessel's helm while the vessel is in motion. Now, I know sometimes this can be tough. As a good captain, you want to go ahead and be courteous of your guests and make sure they have everything they need. So of course, if one of them gets a little thirsty, you may be tempted to go ahead and try and get them a beverage to help refresh their palate. But of course, this should not be your number one priority, as your number one priority should be your safety and theirs. Now, sometimes things will look bad and maybe they really aren't. Like right here, when I first saw this clip, I'm like, man, somebody really dropped the ball on this one for this crew to wind up with this vessel in this situation. But when you really evaluate it, they're actually still loading people on, so they're using this kind of risky situation as a dock. So I don't know if this is a win or if it's a fail in this one, but they do wind up getting the people on the boat. Now right here, this is another one of those situations as a captain. Sometimes you won't be the one at fault, you didn't drop the ball. Right here, it looks like somebody else dropped the ball or the bike into the water. Now for those who don't know, this is actually not that uncommon of a situation, especially over in Europe, as there's kind of a ritual over there. When somebody graduates college, they wind up taking their bicycle or their scooter and they'll dump it into a local waterway after they graduate. Yeah, doesn't sound very environmentally friendly, and I'm not sure why they still do this. And I got a feeling that Cap right here is not very happy they're still doing it as well. But thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Cabocado, Arfa RPT, Salty Horse, and Adam Coolidge did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.